What's going on, my creative collective? Welcome to your daily creative reading for August 8th. We're going to hop right on in here. Happy Lionsgate Day. Super exciting. So typically I just kind of channel whatever comes through the cards when I'm doing these readings for the daily creatives. But one of the things that kept coming up, and I watch and listen to different readers when I'm doing stuff around the house, or when I'm doing some writing, or just mapping things out, and just sorting through stuff in my air, right, in my mind. And one of the things that kept coming up, and it's almost like this thread, and that I had an experience with on Friday. It was it was almost like this weird kind of ego death that it was like I was watching it outside of me, but that's a whole other ballgame. But just thinking about your best, and we're going into, I believe, a Mercury retrograde, but then we also have the full moon in Aquarius this week. Energies that can kind of pull us out to observe, right? This reflective energy. And Mercury wasn't coming through so much as like communication, as much as it was reflecting on how we analyze the data that we then communicate. So it's sort of like the step one of that process. So it's just how we, have compassion for ourselves. And how often do you remember that you did your best? How often do you remember that? So it's sort of like it was very loud, and like loud here, as like in the heart space. You can't really see, I'm tapping my chest, but in the heart space, as opposed to in like the solar plexus or lower. So it was like this, I don't know, it was just this really interesting energy. So we're going to roll with it and see where this goes. But yeah, it almost felt like more of a Virgo iteration of Mercury than anything else. Okay, so so both of these. Okay, what is happening here? That is very scattered energy. Thank you so much, Spirit. I'm just going to set the intention. Okay, thank you so much, Spirit. Beautiful. Okay, that feels so good. With love. So that's the first one kicking it off today. So I'll read that momentarily. And we're going to hop right into this here. Spirit, what messages do you have to close out the reading? Oh, wow. All of them. No, I'm kidding. There's one that fell on the floor in particular. Let me just grab it. Okay. You can see that I'm wearing khakis, which always makes me feel like I'm a camp counselor. I don't know. I've yet to figure out how to wear khakis well. Nonetheless, you are magical. Oh, look at that. And there's a little mermaid. Siren. Whoa. Okay. That's a lot of energy. Okay. So reading this first. So with love. Dearest you, as you think, so will you experience life. Thoughts are that powerful, and they need minding. Let the unruly, chaotic ones settle down so they serve you or get released instead of wreaking havoc. These thoughts arise when connected to the energy of fear and often masquerade as truth. Yet the real truth is that essentially all is well. Of course, you have thoughts that are positive, strong, organized, accepting, creative, open, and so on. Those are the ones we want you to keep thinking, and they have a less frantic quality. They're stimulating in a good way and don't get away from you. How do you keep an inner eye on your thoughts? Meditate and leave judgment out of the mix. Everyone has those fearful thoughts. Love them, love yourself, and then choose the thoughts you want the world to reflect back. Life is not as hard as you think. Loving you so much. Yeah, this strikes me as like a sort of add-on to that. Like it's almost like that Virgo energy I'm getting from Mercury, as opposed to the Gemini side, which, like, I mean, obviously I have Gemini on my chart, so I'm like big fan, right? Like, go team. But it's also just, it felt more of like an organizing of, like, organizing this reflective energy, this way that we see ourselves. It's very interesting. And like, it could be with the full moon in Aquarius, like how we see ourselves as part of the collective, or how we see the collective, right? That idea of, the Leo Aquarius axis. Spirit, what messages do you have for my daily creative collective, please? Queen of Cups. Emotional flow. So that's, emotions could be heightened this week with the full moon in Aquarius. So that's a possibility. That is a possibility. Whoa. Let me this out here. Spirit, what messages do you have for my daily creatives, please? And we also have the Nine of Swords, Page of Wands. Let me pull all the cards here so we can get an overview. It's like almost, so what I'm getting is like the call to adventure here, like this, like I'm hearing the pecking at your spirit. Oh my gosh. Okay, so that's morbid. But I just got the image of the birds and like this annoying, like, hey, 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 right? Like that your guides or whatever are like trying to get your attention. So it's like the call to adventure is like to pull out of fear and to run with a new idea, to run with inspiration, to run with something new that comes across your path. I wouldn't, I almost hesitate to say that this is like a person, but it could be. What I get though, more than person versus opportunity, like from spirit, is that it is an opportunity from spirit that can come, you know, dressed up in a number of forms. So don't discount what crosses your path. And, you know, there's always this sense of foreboding with Mercury retrograde. Don't do anything new in a Mercury retrograde, blah. Like, and that energy can be, it can be on point, but like life doesn't stop. The planet keeps moving, the planets keep moving, and it's okay to be in that place. But it's also just understanding, I think Mino Pontero, he put out a short about this where he talked about how, he talked about how, you know, life doesn't stop, and it's true, right? So it's not about waiting for the right, you know, it's not necessarily about waiting for those things, and if you feel comfortable with it, that is, because how you feel about it will intone how your manifestation may arrive or how things may show up. Yeah, see, and that's okay. So I'm just gonna keep pulling the cards because I'm chatting away here. Both of them, okay. Oh, the sun. We're ending on the sun and the Six of Wands. Give me strength. Oh my goodness. Are you kidding me? Jesus. What? Okay. Pardon my... Okay, but for real. Okay, so I just pulled these clarifiers. Like underneath this like underlying energy of, you know, where we're arriving at in and how spirit is speaking to us is like the sun, you're like this depth of happiness. But then we also have the Six of Wands, the High Priestess, the Empress, and the Hanged Man. I almost get like this is like, how good can it get? And you being like, slow your roll, spirit. What? Right? Like it's that good. Maybe you need to believe it's that good. Okay, so we're just gonna go into this spread here though. Okay, so the Queen of Cups is telling me that there's this sort of emotional connection to things. So your why is quite important. I'm almost getting that this is your why, like it's something about underlying your why is connected to this this Ace of Pentacles. We also have the Page of Pentacles and the Page of Wands. So new opportunities that cross your path. It's almost like they're coming together in this why, but there's something that you're connecting the dots with. You're connecting the dots, and I think that it's kind of urging you. Let's say urging instead of pecking, because that's freaking disgusting. Maybe not disgusting. It's just funny. I'm like, why would, anyways. Oh, that's interesting. What's coming to me right now is this idea of these as like turkey vultures. So here in Ontario, you can see like as I drive to and from work and whatever through like, not through fields, but like you see the farmers' fields on either side. You see the turkey vultures circling. And in the back of my mind, I would always think like, oh, that's a 9 bird if I ever saw one, right? Like that's, and people think like that they feed on things that are like, you know, animals that are struck and are on the side of the road, but they serve such an important purpose in the ecosystem and in the greater picture. And I almost feel like it's like there's a 9 bird that like, it's like it's urging you to move forward. Like there's like this movement forward. So it's almost like this call to adventure is really to follow the trail of inspiration. It's just to follow the trail of inspiration. The thing that could become a tower if it goes unchecked is the Ace of Wands, which I find really interesting. I find that there's a depth of interesting here. It's quite layered because I'm feeling this connection to the High Priestess with this one actually, which is super fascinating to me. And the Empress is coming through as connected to this Page of Wands. So it's almost like there's something that's super grounded, but that looks small and that's more Empress energy than Page, but you need your intuition in order to see it. Or the other way that I'm getting this is that there's an idea that comes to you that's super connected. and just connected to something that will serve you and help you serve others. I'm putting these with these here because they kind of clarified the sun for me and how we arrive at that through this hero's journey of the day / week. So it's almost like, oh, my third eye is just sore AF today. So I'm getting that this Ace of Wands is connected to this knowing about something that's coming or something that arrives. There's this intuitive connection to it. The reason why it could become a tower if it goes unchecked, I'm feeling, is connected to this protagonist of, it's sort of like if you're in the idea more than you're grounding the idea in something like, you know, this Empress energy. The Hierophant is Taurus energy. We have the Page of Pentacles. So like a lot of pentacular, man, like it's this pentacular energy that's in here, right? So and just earth energy, lots of earth. So it's almost like needing to ground it. And, you know, I liken this to imposter syndrome. So when I did the residency at an art gallery, it like this was last 2021. The years kind of do this, and I'm not great with numbers as is. So words are my superpower. Numbers and I have a tenuous relationship, but one of the things that I learned at that art gallery and at the residency is that you can be in this place about starting something new, but you learn by doing. Like the path it creates itself when you walk it, right? So it's almost like that energy of needing to ground it. I think that there's the possibility for whatever this is, if this is a creative project, if this is a relationship or just dating, if this is a long-term relationship, there's something of an evolution of commitment to something. Commitment to something through the Hierophant here. Now, I also see this as like higher knowledge arriving. And this is also, you know, how, you know, the High Priestess, it's almost like it grounds it into a spiritual practice. It grounds it into something that is spiritual in the everyday, right? Spiritual in the everyday. That's super interesting. Yeah. The antagonist is showing up as the Page of Pentacles. And I think the reason why I'm getting this, the reason why the page is showing up in this way, I think it's like investing too small, like, or believing that something is going to be too small an investment. Let me explain this. So the Nine of Pentacles and the Ace of Pentacles are here, which make up a Ten of Pentacles, which tells me that there's an offer, either of spirit or another person. There's a lot here. There's a lot of offering energy. So someone could be approaching you. People could be approaching you. This could be projects that are coming to the fore, or ideas that you can visualize and conceptualize being made into projects. And I think this is why it's like, don't dream them so small before they even have a chance to ground into something bigger, right? Don't dream them so small that you forget that they can become something more. And I think that we dream things small because of this idea. Like this is where the Mercury retrograde can be helpful, to look back in the details, right? To pull back and, you know, how often do you remember that you did your best in the details? Because if you don't remember that you did your best, and again, I had this like intense releasing experience on Friday night, and it just felt like my heart cracked wide open. Oh, it was beautiful, but it's just that idea of like, if you dream small, maybe it's not because you don't believe in yourself or there's a lack of confidence, but maybe it's because you're forgetting that there was something that you invested in, and you're investing in the vision of the details that was before the past, right? You're investing in the past as opposed to investing in something more forward facing. So that's sort of where this can become the antagonist position. And sort of, it can become an antagonistic energy where you place yourself in this box and you don't realize that you're putting yourself there. You don't realize that. And then this Ace of Pentacles and Nine of Pentacles, again, I think that this is where we're journeying back to this awareness, right? It's almost like, think of this as like sitting down at the mat and we're meditating on this hero's journey that we're taking, the call to adventure that we go on, and then looking at the ways that we process information through different stages. And this challenge, I'm hearing the void. I'm hearing, maybe this is, okay. Thank you so much, Spirit. Okay, so I'm getting that this is like, maybe you feel like not devoid. I'm hearing disclosure. Disclosure just in the sense of like higher knowledge becoming, or like sort of this forbidden knowledge, not that you locked it away within yourself, but I'm getting this as more collective facing. That's super interesting. Where this is, and like I saw D and closer. So D, the letter D, this, I've been seeing license plates like intensely this week. One of them, the song Brand New Day, came on my Spotify shuffle while I was driving, and the license plate on the car right beside me, the car was white, and it said LIVINJOY. Kid you not. Live in joy. I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then there was another one that was just like about, like it alluded to embracing happiness. I didn't have a chance to write it down because I was driving. But yeah, so so disclosure, there could be something to do with that. That would be very interesting. It could also just be that someone's disclosing something to you through this offering energy. Nonetheless, the challenge is making sure that you're open enough to receive it, and not to receive it for what, like for your expectations. We don't want to project expectations onto things. We kind of want to maybe, look at all of the different ways that we can go about doing something, and look at all of this is very interesting. All of the different ways we can go about doing something. But I think this is also looking at all the different facets of something as part of working towards the bigger picture. And that's where, if you're kind of in this Seven of Wands energy of being closed off, and this isn't closed off without necessity. This isn't closed off, the whole time. This isn't like a long-standing thing. This comes across to me as an energy of maybe taking a step back. And that's the challenge. It's like if you go too far into this High Priestess, Ace of Wands, into your idea, it can't really ground in anything, because you can visualize, for example, all you want, but it isn't until there's like you start taking action on intuitive hits, right? What do they mean for you? And I think that the Five of Wands isn't showing up as a conflict card here, but it's almost like these different aspects of yourself getting it done, like getting things done, and seeing, and maybe this is like a reflection on the past too, right? Because you're seeing it through this sort of bubbly type of like almost like a crystal ball. Like you can't be resistant now based on things like coulda, shoulda, woulda, didn't, right? It just won't serve you. And maybe this is where it's like seeing all of the possibilities, and it comes down to that, how often do you remember that you did your best in the details? Like thinking about all of the ways that you did your best, and that is the overcoming energy today. In terms of like fears about moving forward or starting something new, this could just be like putting a proposal forward, right? Like I'm, considering an art show and trying to put together the mechanics of a solo show, which would be super exciting. Because there's a larger gallery that I've kind of like been in contact with, and I'm like, ooh, that would be so good. But it's like, I use that example to say that if the idea isn't grounded in something, and you get carried away in fear, this new can just be putting together an email and saying, hey, I have this idea. Who should I talk to about this? Can I book some time to talk to someone to understand how I can, what this would look like, so that I can understand my own resources to put this together in the best way possible, right? It's questions like that. And that can just be what this is here in terms of a creative project. If it's a relationship, it could look something along the lines of, here are a couple different options for date ideas that I have, and I'm really excited to see you and all of that stuff. Like it's just simple things, but they can really have a huge impact on fear, because it's like, instead of just being in the space of abstraction, you're grounding it in something. And there are so many pentacles here. And so as we overcome this challenge, it's like what we're doing is moving towards this 10 of Pentacles. I was going to say 10 of Tentacles, but that's not it at all. Just squidding. Horrible joke. But this is moving you towards a 10 of Pentacles. And I think this is like a completion. This is like the whole and complete, where you either come across something that's worth your time, or that you come across someone worth your time. It's something that you see as like you're whole and complete on your own. And that's the best time for something to arrive on the path, because then it's not that you're ready for it. You don't want to be ready or not. Like you don't want to think about it in terms of black and white thinking. You want to think about it in terms of like your arms are wide open, right? Like how open and accessible is your energy for this opportunity, for this, if it's a person, if you're starting to date, how open are you to that possibility of doing that? And like looking, I've been doing this too. This is, I'm always hesitant to bring too many examples from my life into things because I just don't want to make it about me, because that's weird to me, because this is a reading for you. But what I see here, and that's just a me thing. That's not, like, I see readers do it all the time. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And then when it comes into here, I'm like, ooh, I hope I'm not overdoing it. But when I look at this, I think about like dating, for example, and like looking at your calendar and your schedule and being like, am I available to date someone? Am I actually available to do that? Emotionally, sure, yes. But not sure, it's yes. I'm like, that sounds not convincing. Are you ready? Sure, yeah, sure. No, yes. And then you look at your calendar and you look at your time and where you're allocating your resources so that you can actually show up and be like dating and present with someone, as opposed to being like in all these different places. So it's like that kind of energy, and looking at things like with work and being honest with yourself about what, you're carrying and what isn't yours to carry. If it's a specific, like, work could mean projects, it could mean, different contracts that you're taking on, or ideas, and being very honest with yourself and working smart, not so hard, right? And I do feel like that pullback, it brings a lot of success with it. But I think that it brings success because you're standing in the 10 of Pentacles and it's completed. Like, you make up the majority of the Pentacles here, as opposed to, there's six of Pentacles is balance, but I feel like it's a balance in reciprocal giving, whereas this is, the initiation process, and that's kind of how you want it to be. You want to be in a 9 of Pentacles, right? I think that the best things find you when you're not looking for them. You're not looking for them, because then you're in that 9 of Pentacles, and it's attractive. It's an attractive energy, because you don't notice someone noticing you. You don't notice creative projects noticing you in the ethers, and that your energy is in the sun, and this availability for it and readiness to shine in it, and to shine your light through it as well, right? So that's something else to consider. So I think that with the 6 of Wands and the Hanged Man, it's sort of like pulling back to understand like, this is successful outcomes too. Like, what do you want the outcome to look like? What do you want that to be, right? How will you know that this is successful for you? How will you know? And like, don't look at dating as like a zero-sum game like that, because that's not it at all. But how will you know that you're having fun? Like, have you thought about what that means to you in terms of dating? Have you thought about that on creative projects or at work? Like, what does a successful outcome feel like? Like, what is it? Okay, you want to be, I've been seeing this a lot in readings. You want to be seen, right? So what does being seen feel like? It feels like validation. It feels like someone listening. It feels like someone, it's like the communication where you can, I don't want to say parrot back, but you can reflect what someone's saying and say, hey, it sounds like you're saying this and I'm hearing this, but I just want to double check, because I want to make sure that I'm getting that. And reflecting back and validating where someone's at, because you understand, right? So it's just the basics of this. Yeah, it's like the basics of this, but again, it's taking something that's very abstract and bringing it down into a granularity in the everyday. But there's no need to fear. This is just a kind of a precautionary entry point into the day/week, because like, you emotionally, I feel like there's a readiness. I feel like there's an emotional availability, specifically in the context of this spread. It's like, I see emotional availability. I see, like this, like there's a wealth of like resource availability, and understanding what your resources are. And that's where this reflection inward, I don't tend to freak out about Mercury retrogrades in the way of like, don't start anything new. I mean, I try not to, but I also try to understand the energy of like what the context is and what that means, because then you can start from a place of clarity, and understanding your own intentions, right? You can understand your own intentions and what those mean in the context of the bigger unfolding. So let's clarify. I'm just going to pull a couple cards because this is already quite long, but I also feel like the message is really straightforward. It's really straightforward. So like, do I need to kind of overdo it? I don't know. I don't think so. So we have the Strength card. Good energy there. Yes. Oh, I've not noticed this before, but there's like holding a little, I think it's a rose. Yeah, a little rose. So we have the Strength and Wheel of Fortune. I think this is about having confidence in where you are because you've put in the work. You don't show up in a Nine of Pentacles for nothing, right? Like that's pre-Empress energy technically. Well, not technically. It can be seen in that way. And you have the Empress showing up here. So it's like the Empress potential of this idea is there because you're the Nine of Pentacles. Like understand who you are relative to the energy and the output and where you want to go and your intention. Because you wouldn't be at a place where you're contemplating all of these things unless you were ready to receive and give, right? And it's understanding what all of that means for you and what receiving and giving means for you and how all of that works together in your favor ultimately, right? So let me just clarify here. I'm going to clarify the Queen of Cups, the Seven of Wands, and the Five of Wands. Okay, so we have the Hanged Man. Oh, good. We have the... Oh, that's really tricky. Interesting. So we have the Hanged Man, but underneath that was this little Seven of Swords hanging out here. Interesting. It's not something, I wouldn't say like keep an eye out for deception, but this, I'm almost getting like ways that you might lie to yourself, right? And just being very honest with yourself. Being honest with yourself in your assessment of where you are. Because when you're, and being honest with yourself isn't saying like, look out for liars. It's saying, how honest are you about how you're defining what success looks like. Be honest with yourself, because when you're honest with yourself about what you want and like really and truly want, right? Then other people can respond to that instead of navigating well, maybe this, I think this, but I don't really know. I'm not so sure, right? Like, no, I want this. I would like to date this person and I would like this kind of project and I want to start this kind of work and I am applying to these kinds of jobs or I am doing this type of work at my job and I'm focusing on these things. It's this decisive energy, and I think that's where it can kind of split your energy. So just being aware of that and listening, right? Like it's this echolocation. Is it echolocation? Why did I think that? I'm seeing it's like a way of understanding, and perceptually it's different. I'm in the midst of reading a book called The Immense World, and it's so good. It's like the sensory world of animals. Oh my God, it's amazing. An immense world. Let me see. Hang on. I have it here. I'm having such a great time reading it, but it's this one. Yeah. Oh, it's incredible. So anyways, it's like looking at this sort of sensory perception and intake. Like, how are you taking in information and then synthesizing it, right? Mercury retrograde. Reflect on that. And then we have the Seven of Wands again. No, Seven of Wands? Yeah, Seven of Wands. And I think that is part of the story here, clarifying for this like different approaches, this reflection inward, that it's like you're able to see these different aspects of your own energy at work, but it's also helping to clarify and sharpen. And that means we have 777 as well, which you can look up the number alignment as to how it would fit you. But yeah, it's like arriving at this depth. Interesting. I'm going to clarify the High Priestess, because that's where the depth comes from. It's like a depth of flavor. High Priestess, Judgment. That's the decision here, right? It's Two of Cups on the bottom. It's like decisions about connections, relationship. I think it's not so much about knowing what you want, but your why, right? Why do you want the things that you want? Because that also clarifies the what of what you want. That clarifies the what, right? So... it clarifies the what. Wait, the Sun, wow, and the Eight of Pentacles. Something is worth your time. And I think that as you reflect on, and it's not just worth your time, but it's worth your energy, right? The Sun, I feel like it's like this, it's like a reflection of your energy. And I think that this, whatever it is that you're contemplating, or this depth, I think the depth comes from the fact that it's something quite important to you. It's something very important to you. And I think that there's just a knowing. There's a knowing at work here. So we have the Hierophant, the Four of Pentacles, Ace of Cups. Wow. Different ways that you might have held back Perhaps because you couldn't see how something could be grounded. This Page of Wands and the Empress are clarifying. Page of Wands, Empress, and the Hierophant. And we have now we have the Seven of Cups. So that's the only thing we're missing is the Seven of Pentacles, really. It's almost like I'm seeing this Ace of Cups as like a chalice that the Hermit might hold, in terms of this why. And I think that sort of brings about this opportunity for you. It could be for healing, forgiveness, compassion, but that's that sort of depth of compassion, right? How often do you remember that you did your best in the details, right? Are you blaming yourself and hoping that that's going to change something? Like, it's not about, I'm not looking at it through the lens of forgiveness, but it's just like, if you're closed off to something or you're not really sure, that can mean that it's not that you don't know your why. It's there's a reason you're trying to protect yourself from it, because if you know your why, you will move towards the realization of the why, right? And like, not to put pressure on situations either, but it's like there's something that it's like you had to let go of. And that's what I see here with this this Seven of Cups, right? It's like, it's sort of like, it's almost like this stuckness. It's like there was this why that was missing. The why inflects and informs the judgment here, right? It's almost like the ultimate decision. The ultimate decision. Like, I don't even know. Okay, so we have the Queen of Wands and the Two of Wands. Whoa, and the Empress on the bottom. Hey-oh, and the Chariot. Oh, so good. These energies. Okay. So just the Empress clarifying the side that the Empress is on. It's fine. But I see the Chariot, the Empress, the Queen of Wands, and the Two of Wands here. It's sort of like this flavor of forward movement, flavor of what's to come, like that you put in the planning and the details. And I feel like it's like understanding this Page of Pentacles to be, it's like, don't dismiss the small. Oh, that's beautiful. I'm getting this, there's a book, Gathering Moss, I think it's called, by, Kimmerer, Robin Wall Kimmerer, and there's a chapter in it that talks about in praise of the small, and it's almost like this like these ideas, this small idea that has Empress potential, this small way of starting something, this small way of, it's like this small like brings forward this emotional flow, this like your why in motion, right, with the Chariot and the Empress here. And it's like it takes root in something really, really beautiful, right? There's something very passionate about this. But I think it's like, it's almost like what I'm getting is like, you couldn't have planned for this. You couldn't have planned for this. So it's like the reflection in the details is also a reminder to have compassion, because when you have compassion for the things that you couldn't expect or anticipate that happened, that were not so great, you also have to remember that doing that and having compassion for yourself in the journey in those times unlocks the times that it's really good too. Like, it unlocks the times that it's amazing, right? And it unlocks it because then you realize that if it could be unexpectedly challenging, it can also be unexpectedly amazing as well. So it's just keeping that in mind too. Okay, so we're going to read this to start to close out the reading. Okay, so you are magical. Oh, little mermaid. Okay. Dear you are in such good shape right now that we're all doing a happy dance. There's a good one. But again, like High Priestess, Empress, like all of these cards are like, and the Sun twice. Like that's, yeah. In this moment, you have the power to make a choice to get with spirit and co-create a miracle. Amen to that. That sounds delightful. You may wonder where this is all going, but if you want to manifest your desires for the highest good, you need to stay focused on the now. All power is in the present moment. Ask yourself, what are your dominant thoughts now? What beliefs are you motivated by? Do you have clarity right now? How is your conscious contact with the divine? Are you plugged in, or are you trying to do life all by your small self? Get rid of negative energy now. Resentments be gone. Forgiveness and love enter, please. You can do your life beautifully and create your most powerful future right here, right now, in this moment. Aren't you thrilled to know you have such a huge cheering section over here? Love and hugs always. So I feel like that's, it encapsulates much right? Like it encapsulates much here. Like I feel like spirit is really on your side. So it's not about what do you want, because want is intention. I read the book Abundance by Deepak Chopra on Saturday morning before work. And it was just this beautiful space that opened up where it was like finally listening to the ways that I can be a bit of a prickly bastard sometimes. But it was this beautiful reflection on intentions are what you want a situation to do, and thinking about your manifestations. It doesn't talk about this, but I had the idea that like thinking about your manifestations as, as the product of your intentions. Like I want to, I want to make space safe and open for everybody that I encounter in a day, right? I want everyone who comes through the door where I work to leave feeling better for having been there that day. That's your intention. So everything that you manifest comes from that starting place. And that's like this Page of Pentacles, right? Even the Ace of Pentacles. It's like these things that we allow to take root and that just grow into the Empress energy or with the Empress energy. So it's just remembering this intention and manifestation, especially on Lionsgate, right? So, that, though, my darling daily creatives, is your reading for today. So if this resonated, give it a like. But most importantly, thank you so well. And, most importantly, have compassion with yourself. There's a lot of that here and just that what came leaping through at the start. So do keep that in mind. And there are other ways you can connect with me on the channel. But if this is where we part, I hope that wherever this finds you on the time-space continuum, morning, afternoon, or night, that it finds you very, very well, my friends. Take care.